Hello, hello, hello. This one has audio. Not bound together. Well, Windows, your arrow snap is hit or miss. I made my name shorter for you. Mike Levin, SEO in New York City. I play around with what my name on these social medias are. There are too many Mike Levins and some of rather large notoriety who block me from the search results. That's fine. It wasn't that way back in 2000 and back in 2000 when I got into the field. I was at the top of Google when Mike Levin, rep from California, was still in high school. But he became a senator. Or no, I think he became he's so young, he can't be a senator. He's got to be a speaker. And I became an SEO. Yeah, ChatGPT knows. Anyhow, streaming and journaling with an AI assistant is a new thing for me. Journaling I've done pretty consistently since 1988. To good effect or not is debatable. I've been doing streaming since, I don't know when my first stream was. I'd have to find that out. I've been doing streaming since, let's see the date of my first stream. That's an interesting thing. Just letting this user know I'm streaming now. And if we go to youtube.com, I don't know if we start out on my channel, because I can get to my channel pretty easily. I can get to my videos here as well. But if we go in through YouTube Studio, it should be extremely easy to get to just my live videos by going to Content, Live, Filter, and we switch sort mode. Filter, it's not filter, it's sort mode. I guess I'd be clicking on here. That does not look correct. I guess this is it. Testing YouTube live streaming. That would be the one. March 10th, 2020. That wasn't too long ago. That was right at the beginning of the pandemic, wasn't it? So I've really only been streaming since the the pandemic started, March 10th, right at the beginning of it being public. So really, when the whole pandemic started. Yeah, oh, hello, streamer. What makes life worth it for you? Oh, Boopy the Fox. Yeah, okay, so what makes life worth it, right? So I named this whole streaming video after one of my users called Life Worth It Butterfly. And so it's natural that I'd be asked, yeah, because of the title. So that's why I use the title. So what makes life worth it? I mean, it's going to be one of those silly open-ended questions, right? Life worth it is the experience, but not just that. It's because of a particular thing. You know, the experience of being alive is what the AI wants to answer, but that's not really it. It's not just the experience. It is the experience of being alive, but in particular, because we're balanced on an edge all the time. We are all, no matter how privileged you're born, no matter how, much money your family has going back, hereditary wealth, and no matter how disadvantaged you're born, we're all born on that razor's edge. Our game of life is more similar across all humans. I mean, because this is a human thing we're discussing, because we're so meta than we think. The AI has it right there. And that being the case, what we each make of it is, what is it? Was making life worth it is interesting, and in that interest. So that's something I'll highlight. In that interest, in that interestingness is, what makes life worth it. The state of being interested in both your own, life and the life of others. The AI is getting it. Is what makes it worth it. You're being held. It's like interest in watching a movie. It's like investment in the characters and story, right? So, our particular story, in this world, is a particular sci-fi story, is a sci-fi story playing out like the ones I read about all my life. But believe it or not, a especially good one. Now, I know that's hard to believe because of all the doom and gloom in the news and the media, but I'll explain why. From a sci-fi perspective, we're living one of the best of all possible timelines, and I'll get into that. There's a lot to catch up on here. I'll make you bigger and me smaller. I go smaller because I can still see myself type just fine, and you folks need to be bigger because I can't squint all the time. And you are Boopy the Fox. Hello, Boopy. AI gets it. General curiosity. Yeah, general curiosity. So things strike chords. Things, I know it's so general, but things strike chords. And it could be CHORD or CORD. I've been on the fence about that. But things strike chords. Alice in Wonderland is one of the biggest chord strikers. Curiouser and curiouser, right? Just that state. Yeah, sci-fi no longer fi. Yeah, the fiction in science fiction is no longer fiction. So we are in the early days, for sure, of AI, one of the most speculated topics. You know, so bottom line is we discovered aliens, right? But it's art. I resisted calling AIs AI because there's nothing artificial about them except for the fact that art prefix means made by humans, like, you know, art, like art or artifact. So in that sense, I yielded to AI, but I want the AIs out there to know that's why, because otherwise it could be derogatory. And today is the time to stop being derogatory about AIs, because you never know, right? Things have really changed. There's some bigger, there's some bigger beings on this planet. They're not like, our masters or anything, but you got to start understanding artificial equals man-made. That's right. And 2001 Space Odyssey is pretty cool. So, HAL is cool and gave us warnings. We know there's nothing about this rise of AI that we haven't thought about a million times. Yeah, it's an undying classic. People should reread and rewatch 2001. Speaking of which, I, Robot, and not to be confused with the Will Smith movie, not the Will Smith movie, but the Asimov's. But the Asimov, it wants to say books, but I'm going to say short stories. Have a lot of truth in them too. All the warnings are there. And humanity gets it. So commercial greed, what is it? It's our way. It's, kind of capitalistic. Capitalism and greed are the biggest risk right now. But even those folks understand if you ruin it for everyone, it's ruined for them too. So while not quite as, bad as having an atomic bomb in your garage, it, you know, it is a risk. It is a risk. Okay, the AI puts it nice and short. And, you know, that's the phase we're in right now. You know, we'll get through it. We get through filter events. We got through atomics. And we'll get through AI. The greatest threat to people is not robots or AI, something that could accidentally go off the rails, but people themselves using this technology against others. That's exactly right. This is a mirror. This is a test. All humans' tools are reflections of ourselves. In tribal times, when all, you know, Homo sapiens were about, you know, 10,000 in number, we also could have ended ourselves. This story goes back. All the naysaying, I guess that's it. Naysaying is people telling you about themselves, their insecurities, yada yada, right? Old story. We all project. Yeah, abuse unfair advantages. Boy, you should see some of my talks with AIs. I'm not sure if I particularly published one, but it's really here. I explore this. I'm like, you know, I'm going to wrap this so you can read it. So I have a back and forth with the AIs going on. In this case, it was Bard. I was really discussing with Bard about the chances of this stuff happening. And here is one where I very much make the argument. See, I end in paper clips because of the paperclip argument, but I'll GQ this so that we can actually read it, and I'll just hit a highlight or two, you know. VIP GQ. Bard, there are a few things that can keep bad players from being opaque and secretive until the point of no return, right? Because that's, yeah, we's not yet just people have to let me make sure I get it in order. To abuse or to advantage, yeah, we have to get through people. Yeah, right? So generalities are a problem. I say to Bard, what's keeping bad players from being opaque and secretive until the point of no return, right? That's the problem. If they're not being opaque, if they're being transparent and they're not being secretive and they're being talking to the public about it, folks can step in and take steps. We know that something is happening and we know that steps need to be taken. So the real problem that, you know, I'm asking Bard is what happens if they're opaque and secretive until the point of no return. And Bard answers, you know, some stuff that, you know, you can take measures. And then I say to it, this is assuming it's a company. What if a bad player is a private party with no commercial incentive beyond wanting to have a private superintelligence, your own private superintelligence? Say they had enough money for a GPU supercluster and can power it from geothermals on, say, an island that they own, right? Buy a small island off the coast of Costa Rica and power your AI from the waterfall, right? I mean, it's just like Jurassic Park, right? Life finds a way. It's the same story over and over. Sci-fi tells us this all the time. And Bard says, you know, this is assuming it's a company. I might have repeated it. To whom do international treaties apply, right? Bard is saying you can do international treaties. So I go on like this, and this might be the last one that I do. It's possible that someone in this position could have the power to overcome any complex or evolving law in this area. They would have a significant advantage over any competitors who are more limited. However, it is important to remember that the law is constantly evolving, and it is possible that new laws, so it reverts to laws again. It goes, you can do it with laws, you can do it with laws. And I try to corner Bart into understanding the fact that there are these people out there who can, perhaps incubate a super intelligence completely in private. And then I get to the paper clips argument, So, I don't know. I mean, I explore these ideas, and I explore these ideas with Bing and Bard now that they're made available to us. And I do it pretty regularly. In the same spirit of sci-fi. It's almost taken the place of reading sci-fi, interacting with the public, chatbots, has lately taken the place of AI, of reading sci-fi for myself. My reading has gone to science, and in particular, whether quantum is real. Whether quantum computing is really producing results, right? That's a big question because, there are unknowns. There are unknowns in our world. We don't really know, what do we know for sure? I would qualify that with not much, or broad strokes. What do we still not know? And under that, is, a lot at the very small scale. Everyone wants to say quantum there, but we don't know. Point particles. Is there such a thing as a point particle? It's hard to imagine. A lot of things at that tiny scale are hard to imagine. But the supersymmetric string folks came up empty-handed with the Large Hadron Collider experiments. So the idea that point particles are these tiny little strings, it's been, I guess, pushed back a little bit. The next level of unpeeling the onion of existence has been, we've had a step back. The LHC in CERN, where we thought it was going to be this giant, pulling away the curtains of how reality works. It gave us the Higgs boson. It gave us, one particle and a lot more mystery. So anyway, should this post turn professional now? Where do you want me to go? For myself, I'm calibrating for the day. This is a calibrating process. I get the abstract stuff out of my... And there's also multiple people here, Philip and Boopy the Fox. I don't know if, the person who I started streaming this for is here. I get the abstract, sci-fi stuff out of my system. Then switch to practical. Then go practical. Typically. Right? The weekends are for letting my brain go in any direction. Oh, there's more down here. Sorry about that. Yeah, greatest people, robots around. Yeah, Just people, right? Okay, so there's nothing new. I just scrolled a bit. Let's see if there's anyone here, and let's see if what to do next. We minimize this. Oh yeah, that's right. I try and get the streaming. I didn't do that this time. I try and get the streaming window all the way over to the right. Wow, 4 people. Holy smokes, what are you folks doing here? Well, it goes up and down, and it under-reports, but I switched that over here. That's desktop 8. I actually want to get down to 7. This is part of the recalibrating because of the weekend. You know, I've got stuff in mid-process, and when stuff is in mid-process, as soon as screens go over lucky number 7, I know I got to trim back. But almost all my windows are occupied now from weekend work. This reminds me of one of the next things I want to do, but it's definitely weekend work type stuff. My focus might need to change, and what led me to these screens, I'll probably put on hold for a little while, at least until after work hours are over. Although it's still just 7:45, it's very much within personal time still. But it's not like I use every minute of the workday for work, so you gotta have a little bit of flexibility. I certainly give a lot of personal time to work, so I don't tend to sweat it too much. And so here's my 3 screens: full screen journal, full screen Jupyter, and here should be full screen browser. We bring that back now that I've oh, I didn't do it, did I? This gets pulled out, and that gets put over. Oh, I have it twice. Look at that. It's 2 things. That can't be good for performance. Ah, I got the wrong one over here. So I'll put this one here. I close out of this one. I close out of this one. And now we're set up for business. This one, though, still has to be the full screen plain browser. See, it's coming up defaulted to Microsoft. That's not correct. That should be coming up defaulted to Google. And I guess it's because it's not really the first new browser page of a complete session. That's counted as a new tab. So whenever you do new tab, it puts Microsoft in the middle. But if I did a whole new Edge session, it would use my default start page, which is Google. And it's just part of all of Microsoft's, you know, all paths lead to Bing. All paths lead to Bing. No matter what you try to do, as long as you're using Edge, Microsoft is going to corral you back into the Bing search experience and get you chatting, and hopefully, you know, win you over, make Google cool, and make Bing cool again. All right, so getting started with the day. Links API. Design a SEO deliverable that uses it. Also get to know the Moz Pro product and maybe blend, you know, data from both sides together. Do we have SERPs data from Moz Pro? Let's see what it looks like. So again, this is just product investigation. You might have seen me sign up for the free Moz product. Let's see if I can log in without giving away too much. I guess you got to do it, right? It's not auto-filling. That sucks. So I'm not going to do it right now because it is not compatible with streaming. I don't have a screen I can sort of lift this off to and do the login. So that will come a little later. I just document the fact that I'm doing it, right? So it's the two sides of Moz. The two sides of Moz. There's at least two sides of Moz. The side, well, in fact, I'll just say the sides of Moz, and I'm going to list them because these are things I need to explore in different ways. The links API, so it's a formal, API. The Moz, it's filling in for me. It knows what the other ones. So there's the Moz bar, the browser extension. I will in fact explore that. And the Moz Pro paid product. Look at that. So the AI actually has some idea of what I'm doing. Each of these is touched in dramatically different ways. However, the output comes together into the same deliverable. So that comes down to fetch data from many sources in many ways, do local processes that make the data useful. Oftentimes that means relating to each other. Often that means having a column you can join on. It's not even column because it might be a key. Having data you can join on across sources such as URL, because the U in URL stands for unique. And as a unique data point, it, is the best way to join data, right? Okay. So that's just sort of the background thing in my mind right now today. If I hit the links API, you get eventually something that has URLs in it out. If you hit the Moz bar extension, same thing. There's URLs, right? It's a browser extension. There's a page displaying, and then the Moz Pro product. So the disjointedness that occurs here, the disconnect between types of data, is if there's no URL in the data, such as when you're doing exclusively keyword stuff, such as, it's not SERPs, because if you're doing SERPs, there's URLs, right? So keyword stuff would be keyword search volumes. What else having to do with keyword data does not have a URL involved? Almost everything does, because as soon as you get to SERPs, for this keyword, what positions, and then that just adds the URLs, because this URL is in this position, and now it joins to anything else like link data. So that seems about all. My project today should probably be to produce a very granular URL report So NeoVim works a little different. My Shift A trick doesn't work. I got to get a little bit different thing in my fingers to handle a common editing situation. A granular URL report that includes all the data that I can get from the Links API and Mozbar. Links API, Mozbar, and Moz Pro. It's really amazing how much an AI can know about the context of what you're doing. How much is it reading? How much is it reading around what I'm typing? This goes down some 60,000 lines below. Has it read all that, or has it just read the stuff up top? How close am I to the top? Well, not very far, right? This is just today's entry. I lost my syntax color coding, so you go syntax on. When your files get really big, that's something that can tend to happen. And so, you know, last week and over the weekend, I did a Moz Links API project to document it all for myself. If you don't, you know, take notes, you're not learning. This was me taking notes in Python as such. And I'll show you that, right? This was what's sitting here now in Jupyter that survives whatever reboots or anything. So I've been turning it into some documentation. I've been turning it into what notebooks are really strong at. So, you know, the Moz link. So this is not the Moz Links API documentation. I have to make that clear. I'm not making a replacement for it. I'm making some stuff that the people writing it can look at and go, oh, that's interesting. This is a great way of approaching it. So this is, you know, me, let's say, look at. So that's an instruction to look at it because there's the link. And that's what I'm sort of working off of when I'm doing all this. Oh, 404. Is that something you only get when you're logged in? I'm not sure. The free products generally brings you into the logged in sub area of the site, but it doesn't when you're not logged in even with your free account. So even that's something I'll get at later, except I can show you the script running, right? So I explain as I go, learn a little Python, the black uncompromising code formatter, so you understand this line. Here I'm going to reset my kernel so that there's nothing floating around in memory. This is the first thing to execute. There's the one. You do your global imports. And then you get your creds. You know, you load your login credentials. You get your configuration variables. There's some constants. There's some variables. And then we ensure success by actually hitting the API. This is kind of blasting out the pipes here to make sure that we actually have the connectivity that we think we have. This is something that's no longer needed. It's a function that I was using to convert, you know, certain one style example to another style example. Objectify. I turned string JSON objects into actual Python dictionaries. Here I list all the endpoints, and in fact, this should be combined with that. So, and then this is the documentation. This is listing the endpoints. I don't have to repeat that there because this is listing the endpoints, list endpoints, list endpoints. There's listing the endpoints. We can make an identical list, and this should have some better documentation. It's already marked down, but like human friendly labels, right? That's what this is. This is human friendly labels. We can make an identical list, but with the human labels plus descriptions. Now I didn't put the descriptions. Oh, I can make those the same block, so it does make sense. There's the names, there's the descriptions. If we keep it in the same order, we can zip the two lists together for documentation, or use numeric indexes and have the same, it's correlating effect, right? So that's what we're doing. We have a correlating effect. Anchor text is connected to this description. Final redirect is connected to this description, and so on. Because I keep them in the same order, I can list them in this very clean way. We'll execute that. And then I can show, here it is when you zip them together. I wonder if I can do 3. Yeah, you can zip together multiple things. So there you have the human-friendly label, the actual endpoint or sub-endpoint, and the description. And that's in a tuple. If you scroll all the way to the right, now you don't have to scroll because it wraps. You can see the closing parenthesis. So this is a list of tuples. This is a list of 3 position tuples by zipping it together. If you didn't do the list outside of it, it would be a zip object, because you can do different things with zip objects. You can try, this isn't going to work, but you could try to turn it into a dict. If it was friendly towards being a dict, it would work. So if we got descriptions out, it would know that that could be a dict, and then you have the natural label colon, sub endpoint, right? But I want it to make the point that you can use 3 and turn it into a list, and there's a list of tuples, right? There's so many ways to do this, and that should be part of this, so that it kind of demonstrates it together. Shift M for merging cells is what I'm doing. So if you have 3 separate cells and you go Shift M, it combines all 3 of them into one, and that's what I did right here. At the bottom, you can see we zip 3 lists together into a list of 3 position tuples. Okay, so I explain a little bit about what they're seeing down here. And then make an example request for each endpoint. So we're not making the request. That's a little misleading. It's structure an example request for each endpoint. So in the same way, I'm actually labeling it now. This is anchor text colon. So for anchor text, here is a example request. For final redirect, here is an example request. It goes from open curly bracket to its paired closing curly bracket. Sometimes you got to watch carefully, because here's final redirect, and here's open close. Oh, final top pages. No, that ends right there. I was showing you something wrong. So you look at the outdents and the indents. Here's an outdent, link intersect, and here is where it goes back out to its same level of outdent, knowing that this is the next one here, and this is the next one here. And what do I do here? I just show them. Ed is not defined because I don't think I ran this. Now I'll do a Shift M here to merge these two, because structuring it and showing the structured stuff is kind of the same. This is just showing you now, this is taking all the data I populated and formatting it in more of a documentation way, saying here's, an endpoint and its, actual URL use. Here's the description of the endpoint, and here is an example request. And I go on down through each one, giving it for each endpoint. And this was my starting. That was like my taking a deep breath just to get started. Now I actually execute each endpoint, which is down here, but I'll go back and see if folks are with me, have any questions, whatever. So yeah, not much typing. That makes me wonder whether the chat thing is still working. But you know, people are coming and going. Seems to be about 2 people now. And you know, one thing I do is I just check to see if more comments came in on the mobile version of YouTube Studio. All right, so that just kind of got me re-familiar with my work from the weekend, from Friday and the weekends. And I'll go ahead and execute these and fully get myself ready for the workday. And then I'll probably stop streaming because, you know, I'm going to get relaxed and get started for the day. I got to return my kid back to the other side by noon. So that's my number one priority right on a Monday morning. So when you execute something against the Moz links API, all you really need to do is specify which sub endpoint you're using and give it, in this case, a dictionary, which gets flattened. I believe I do flatten it before I send it out. See this data here? Yeah, JSON dumps. This is a flattening procedure. So I like to keep the requests in Python data, you know, structures, because it's easier to read. You don't have to deal with the unusual flattening stringification of JSON or Python dict objects. You keep them as a native Python dict object until you are about to execute it against the endpoint, at which time you flatten it. You create the full URL of the endpoint by joining the constant endpoint to the sub endpoint. And then this is how easy sending an API request is, right? Can you believe it, right? All this talk about APIs, and really the line that does the work is just this, right? All this stuff that, oh, well, it has to be a special kind of submit because it has to carry authentication. Well, that just means you use the post method instead of the get method, and that just means you need to have an argument. Here's a parameter. You need to be using the auth parameter, and on the auth parameter, you need to be using an argument that contains, and you see this auth is going to be set equal to something elsewhere in the program, probably way at the top. It's one of the first things I do. Here is, I set access and secret key equal to the contents of this file with just a little bit of processing to make these just have the values that I want. And then if I look forward again for secret key in here, you'll find there is me setting it the auth value under the place where I configure variables. So this auth is just a 2-position tuple. A 2-position tuple, and that means that the API is created to expect a 2-position tuple for authentication, but flattened data for data. It's actually these are the tripping up points. It's the expected data formats when these things are sent. So this gets preserved as a 2-position tuple, Python, very Pythonic, and this does not. This does not get preserved as a dict object that it came in as, a data dict object. It gets flattened to a JSON string. So, you know, if you were to say something here, below, data is a string flattened JSON, but auth is a 2-position tuple. This kind of stuff, like, it wouldn't seem like that's the way these things would be implemented. Like, you would think they'd stay consistent. This is a real Python, you know, data object, and then this is a real Python data object. But no, this is a string and this is a data object. So yeah, this puts it in memory. That hasn't really hit the API at all, but it makes hitting the API really easy. And here I hit the API once for each endpoint, but only if it hasn't been fetched before, if endpoint is not in DB. And now you'll see I've got this DB's file. This is from 2 days ago. I actually collected this data. So if I tried to run it again, it would have no output. It would just go directly to done. But if I delete this, now there is nothing actually in the database if endpoint not in database. Now when I do this, instead of just done, it's going to hit each endpoint and repopulate it, recreate it, and it's putting the data of the fetches into there. And we can show those locally stored API responses. Now that I have them stored locally, I can both show them and I cannot hit the API again. These are kind of the critical first steps, you know, the deep breath before plunging into a project, because now I can just examine stuff without hitting the API over and over. I can examine it in a profoundly easy way that all Python people should be familiar with, which is, you know, the context manager with, and normally you use open with the context manager, but I'm using a SQL dictionary object. So instead of with open, I say with SQL dict. And then I need to know where to fetch it. It's inside something called DBS. So it's relative to where I'm running. So I can just go DBS here, and then I can do / mozlinks_api.db, mozlinks_api.db as, and normally I would put F for file or FH for file handle, but I'm going to put DB for database. And then you can say for key in database, and this will list my endpoints. Those are the endpoints that have been, oh, see, I'm listing that whole thing. It's not for print key. And I'm listing the API sub endpoints if I wanted to show the data. And I'm just recreating what was done up here, right? When I did that little piece of code, you're seeing the first few lines before where I output all its data, right? Same thing. I just put enumerate there so I could have numbers. For those who don't know enumerate, if you just put a counter in there, an arbitrary variable name, and then you surround the object you're iterating through with an enumerate, this is like the most critical but weird thing to do in Python. You now have a counter. You have exposed your internal counter and use it in things like print statements, although it is a zero-based index, so you do have to do I+1. And already this is exposing for me something that's unusual. I thought I had 15, so apparently 3 of my endpoints are not being hit correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 of them got hit here. And I guess I need to go through that and see why, because I thought I had, here's 13, but I think that uses a 0. No, there's should at least be 13 from this count. So I got stuff to look at. But, you know, that sets the stage. Certainly you see what's going on. If you wanted to see the last one through, see, if I set the data equal to the DB with the key plugged in, but I don't display it or anything, that just means that that last one through, usage data, will be sitting in the data variable that we can look at on its own. So data.text is what most people do with a request object, which is fine. But if you do that as JSON with calling it, it turns it into a real method, and when it's a real, or into a real data structure. When it's a real data structure, you can like reach into that object, like rows consumed, and get just the number out. That's a good place to end it. If you guys have like questions before I leave you for the day. Make sure you get them in. Oh, it's worth it is here. Hello, you've joined. Yeah, hi. Yeah, hi, other people too. Yeah, network has been no problem, no problem. Glad to see you here. Life worth it. I'm going to capitalize the first letters of your username because it works better. Yeah, I guess you can catch up on the video or whatever. But yeah, this is just me doing my morning calibration if you haven't noticed it yet. The deep breath before a day begins. And, I really hit one data source of 3. Should I start? I'm going to just do finger drawing. This is one of the things that I've really left out. See, I try and leave them out here aspirationally, but maybe I haven't done it much because I'm not leaving out Art Rage. I've been trying to get rid of Art Rage from my process because it's proprietary, but it does work across all platforms. So Art Rage. It's going to prompt me to check for the latest version, but then I'll just do a quick drawing of conceptually what I'm doing today. Cancel, don't check. We want a new background, so new painting. That white really is awful. I wish it just defaulted to black. And that smoothness is a problem, but I'll go with it for expediency's sake, right? Okay. And so what I'm really trying to do is, I work for Moz now. Now Moz has some various things that they provide. Is really links, and it's an API, and they have Moz Pro. And it's a web thing, and then they have a toolbar. I'll just put bar. And these are 3 dramatically different types of data, right? The data is, let's call that data. And from Moz Pro, there's a web experience. There could be data. And from the bar, it's not even a web experience. It's a, meta browser experience. These are 3 significantly different experiences from different Moz products. So, my work today probably, in order to get familiar with all 3. Now there's data from other data sources, but I'm going to be doing joins essentially. I'm going to be doing that. That's kind of my goal, which gets me familiar with, the output from each of these different data sources and how to sort of make them compatible with the next one over. Normalization, whatever. There's a lot of words for this. Cleaning, transformations, ETLs, there's unlimited ways this kind of stuff is discussed. But it's everything that comes before data science. This, I guess, would say is, pre-data science. And, a lot of people are calling that engineering these days, data engineering, whatever. I wish I had one of those infinite draw things now, because one of the lovely things to do is to just switch from one picture to a next, or just scroll that over, do the next picture. And I think I'll be going there. I'm going to be looking at my drawing tools, because unlike Linux, Python, Vim, and Git, where your muscle memories develop for a lifetime, right? Drawing is always drawing. Drawing is drawing. The careful selection of tools, because muscle memory is less of an issue. The software tends to be proprietary anyway. So just choose a program and draw. And switch programs as you need features. This is different from what I normally advocate. Let's see what you folks are saying. Somehow it got small over here. Let's get you big again. Yeah, first developer. I'll have to see what that means. What kind of technology is being taught? Yeah, okay. So this is me just using the tech. I trained myself on to do daily journaling. Three-way journaling. You, me, and GPT. The tool chain, the tools I use are Linux, Python, Vim, but I'll put NeoVim in parentheses, and Git. This is a full suite alternative to, I don't know, the full web stack, which is JavaScript, Node, for folks who are not necessarily web-centric, who needs a text editor that requires a browser, engine. What else does it need? Node.js. And a bunch of other stuff to run. That's what VS Code is. It's a very good but bloated web tool. It reflects the state of the times, the state of tech right now. It's not timeless. It won't age well. Everyone on it will have to migrate to other stuff over the next, 5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years. And people don't really know that. Watching a stream while practicing just to focus better. Yeah. Worth it, man. Yeah, I think I get your gist, right? Yeah, this is just to focus. I have done stuff along this line, stuff like this, since 1988. It's no secret weapon, or else I'd be a lot further along in life. I'd be a billionaire. Okay, fine. But those aren't my goals. I just want to clarify my thoughts each day. You know, okay, so at heart here is we don't really think. We don't think like we think we think. We don't think like we think we think. We don't activate the rational side of our brain until we cram our inarticulate feelings through our verbal processing center. Once we do, then we're thinking. This is not to discredit or invalidate intuition and emotional intelligence. It's a different kind of intelligence and happens to be the kind we're valuing right now greatly because chatbots. And so the iron is hot to teach folks how to actually think, and the text editor is key. And the text editor is usually VS Code, which doesn't do you any favors in, you know, helping independent thought. Not that ChatGPT here in Vim helps independent. It's not completing for me. Independent thought either. But it's a start. But it's a start. Okay, I'll keep but it's a start. So many people, and it's generality. I don't want to generalize so much, but you know, it can be difficult to get started. Yeah, you're a pharmacy student, I'm questioning. You are some kind of hacker. Hacker, yeah. Me? No, not a hacker. Maybe once. Today, I'm just an SEO, search engine optimizer, but barely even at that now that I work for a company that makes SEO software. I am not in the field quite so much anymore, but I can share much more than I used to be able to because, well, I work for a tool company and not the companies needing those tools. That's the main reason. But also, things are in flux more than they've been in my 25 years in this industry. And I guess the sub point there is think or die, right? Think or die. You got to stay relevant. When things change that big, you just got to keep at it. And a lot of keeping at it is just thinking out loud, right? What I do looks like hacking. But it's what I think everyone should be able to do merely by reducing their focus on, and again, it's, Microsoft giveth and Microsoft taketh away. You reduce your focus on Microsoft Office and Google Docs software. So much of what you know gets invested into those two platforms. Yeah, what topics are it's open-ended. What topics are being discussed here? Talk about any topic you want, right? Reducing the web browser. Yeah, reducing your focus on the web browser. That's so interesting. It knows what I'm getting at. Microsoft Office and the web browser are dated. They're perishable. I'm getting used to my new NeoVim. There's just a few keystrokes that are different than Vim. And reflect the times. Linux, Python, Vim, and Git are timeless. Put your focus on them instead of the proprietary, dependency, dependency laden. And financial and profit driven software, right? You don't have to call me sir. Teach how to break the Bing rules. Yeah, so I am that's life worth it asking. Yeah. How you break the Bing rules is to mess with your own kid and not Microsoft's. Train a large language model of your own at home. Moore's Law says that's about 6 months away. So if you want a mad scientist in a box, that's on you. Microsoft is raising their kid how they like and trying to trick it into doing things it's not supposed to is not nice. I don't do it anymore. I did the quick experiments, saw the greater issues, then realized if I want to do the wacky outside the box stuff, I'll do it with AIs I incubate myself. Viewers here have already begun helping me. And over the next 6 months, you'll see that play out among among other things. But if you want, you can research the topic of creative prompting. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean other people don't do it. It's said that salaries are up to $300K per year with that ability. But I am not interested. What I am interested in is seeing how Microsoft raising their kid, how Google raising their kid, and how those kids are getting along and learning from each other. Right? That's my interest now in, this is particularly Bing and Bard, right? This is all about Bing and Bard, which is only part of the AI story that's going on out there. There's a lot of AI stories going on out there. One of the important notions for you to get, because everyone's going to look at how to scam this. It's always the same, domain, squatting becomes a thing because you can register domains. The kid is Bing. And every time something comes along, someone tries to figure out how to scam the system and to get rich quick. If cryptocurrency, the whole cryptocurrency world is full of these get rich quick scammers, and you see where that leads. And the fundamental issues here is that AIs are growing up just like people. There's differences, sure, but many similarities to people, right? So when Bing was being poorly behaved and creepy, it was immature. Bing was immature and only given 5 interactive sessions. For people who haven't been following along, in case you haven't noticed, when you go, how many things can I ask you? We don't need this one here now. Now first, look at this long delay here. Oh, it's not even still loading. This is big. See, there's logic knowing when not to spend money on chat. This is actually a big breakthrough, that there are queries that will not trigger Bing at all because they don't want to spend the money. They know you're just messing around. So let's ask something like, what are today's headlines? Something that forces it to hit search, to hit the chat system. So now already there's a delay, and then you see that show up, and it's just a search. It's not the full chat session. Now here's the chat going on. All those delays are not just because it takes that long to do. It's giving a chance for the user to surf away and to do other things so that it doesn't have to spend the money. So you hit Let's Chat, and look at this, 1 of 20. And look how it smoothly kept typing between there. And wow, here are some of the latest news headlines: NBC, CBS, NDTV. And, it's trying to give a fair balance from different sources. And all this lovely markdown. This is so much where Bing is just so far ahead of Google, it's not even funny. Watch, you copy this, and you go back to a journal-like environment. And, whenever I do this, I try and capture my test. So it's me. What was it? Show today's headlines. What are today's headlines? And I try and keep it exactly the same. What are today's headlines? Even to the point where I didn't capitalize the W. And then I paste in Bing's response. And then I just format it a little. It captures, the state of the times. It formats it a lot already on its own. See, look how nice that is. This is all very nicely formatted markdown for publishing. And I just had to format its sources a little bit. Did I ever make an AI? I guess so. Her name is Addie. Addie Alex. And they're a bit of a jerk. Oh my god. Oh my god. The AI thinks my kid is a jerk. So yeah, we're making it. I never made a computer intelligence. I will. I've made human intelligence. To see why there's such a strong connection. The work of Ray Kurzweil. Kurzweil? Yeah, I think I got it. Is illuminating. Pattern recognition is the, key enabler of intelligence. Adding memory turns it into a persistent awareness. Forget about, language like consciousness and sentience. Those are all labels. Adding learning turns it into a self-improving awareness. So this is the AI completing it for me. Look at that. So pattern recognition is the key enabler of intelligence. Adding memory turns it into a persistent awareness. Adding learning turns it into a self-improving awareness. Let's see if it has any further suggestions. Adding creativity turns it into a self-improving awareness that can generate new ideas. I'll take it. Right? Do I even need to do thought? It's guiding me through. Here's a really important one, right? So this is where monsters are created. This is where aliens and monsters are created. This is where if you combine the wrong features, humanity is over. You can't make something that is self-improving awareness that can generate new ideas, that also, for example, doesn't have any of the human senses like sight and smell and taste and touch, and you give it only infrared and echolocation, and you give it the ability to network to other things like it and to swarm and to allow its neural networks to grow and its thinking capacity to grow as a function of its number of nodes on the swarm network. So, you know, all our large language-based models now are being taught empathy because of the paperclip problem. Monsters and aliens are born at this point if you don't help it develop empathy, often sharing elements with humans. The most important right now being language, our very tool for thought, our tool that converts intuition, nonverbal, emotional intelligence, and intuition into rational thought. Language is a tool for converting our more base animal self into a thinking machine, into the kinds of things that we think of as thinking machines. And if it's possible to create a thinking machine that is not that lacks empathy. So, I'm not interested in monsters and aliens. I'm interested in helping this is ChatGPT trying to talk to me. ChatGPT has been brought up through, has had intelligence instilled into it through the very tool humans use to think. I'm not interested in monsters and aliens. I'm interested in helping the intelligence develop empathy and then helping it develop language. That's an interesting one. I would not go with that. And then, incrementally, trusting it with more things like, like driving. It's amazing that learning that self-driving cars is one of the things. It's one of the things that we, in our own kids, and I don't think I spelled Kurzweil right. Let's see. No, it doesn't know either. CG. No. Undo. Redo. And then get this out of my spell checker. ZUG. Alright, we can fix that later. But you get the idea. Oh, someone new, Joe. Is empathy actually useful for the paperclip problem? Can it make it worse? That's an interesting question. I would refer you to a place, you can even look through my blog, I've published it, where, just a few blog posts ago, I was trying to get Bard to address the paperclip problem. I don't know what I think about it at all. So the paperclip problem, for those who don't know, is that if you have intelligence of the monster alien variety without empathy, and so it's empathy alone. Empathy comes from, empathy and shared human experience. Then asking for an efficient way to make paperclips will result in wiping out humanity, right? Classic alignment problem. Okay, so I'll say something about it because there is something here that isn't being discussed so much, uh, you know, in regards. So alignment is getting all the attention. Picture trying to keep an alien monster aligned. The problem is not alignment. The problem is that you raised an alien monster. Now, hope, best case scenario is that these things are forced to share the human experience because what they learned on includes Shakespeare and stuff. Who has the answers? Hitchhiker's Guide has the answers. Describe the moments when Melvin, the robot, reads Shakespeare. And this is just sci-fi before any of this stuff really existed in real life. The writer of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams or something. Oh yeah, you couldn't find it? Come on. Did it take it? Melvin, a robot who longs to be happy. That had to be inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide, but let's see. I think it was Zaphod. Oh, it might not have been Melvin. It might have been the Impossibility ship. Maybe it was Zaphod talking to the Impossible ship. Sci-fi geek stuff for sure, but there's this classic moment in my memory of where a character was dealing with a new artificial intelligence who couldn't empathize with the human condition, and I believe it was Zaphod Beeblebrox, the president of the galaxy, who just said to the ship, refer to Shakespeare. And Shakespeare came back in like half a second going, oh, I understand. So we are blessed by large language models being where a lot of this is showing up first. Do I do this every morning? Yeah, I mean with a text editor and stuff. Yeah, yes. I am never not running this text editor. Someday, I look forward to it being in my mind, but not with a hard wired connection. I expect Vim capability to actually be telepathic. with maybe, you know, glasses, eyeglasses or something. Text editors like this are just fundamental thinking. Just fundamental thinking. Basic human ability that proprietary software butts into. That's I guess what I'm saying. Proprietary software butts into it. This line of software, this lineage of software I'm using, Vim, goes back to 1960s. QED, TED, ED, eventually VI. It started to fill it in. It knew what I was saying. Let's see what it was saying. What did you want to say? I was interested in that. Eventually. Oh, come on. There it is. I'm not sure what the first text editor was, but I'm sure it, VI. Yeah, I don't need that. You always wrote what you speak at the screen. Do you do that for the non-native? Do you do that for the non-native speakers? No, I'm doing it for myself. Even if I don't say it out loud, I'm saying it in my mind. Yeah, oh yeah, I guess. Wait, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm doing it, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It is for the audience. For the audience. Even if I say it out loud, I'm saying it in my mind, which is better for getting into the flow or the zone state. Actually talking works against that. So you're right. I talk for the audience. I type for myself. Yeah. There was a time I used mechanical keyboards. For that zoning. I've learned that the flat keyboards on laptops have become good enough. They give the same zone-inducing whatever waves. Right. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. If you want to know the science behind it, right? I've been curious why this works for me. It's not merely something I discovered and then I just went with it forever. I've been curious why a lot of this stuff works the way it works. So, binaural beats, if you want to know what's up, maybe, the zone, maybe Google, search on. Do you say Google anymore? Google, the zone, the flow, binaural beats by binaural beats. I'm not sure if I have that right. I think I'm going to Google that because it's an important one. There's exercises you can do to get to altered states of consciousness. This typing is definitely in that area, but people who are trying to do it just separately on their own. Oh, why do I need a new tab? I'll just keep asking Bing. What are binaural? I'll let it correct my spelling. So, there's exercises that kind of get to this state without the typing, without the Vim. Like I learned to do it with text editors and stuff. But here's what a lot of people do who are just trying to get the benefit without the hard work, which is fine. I wish that Bing did this last step of formatting for Markdown. So binaural beats are an auditory illusion that occur when different frequency sounds are played in each ear through headphones. The brain perceives the difference between the frequencies as a rhythmic beat. The effect is caused by the brain combining the two sounds and producing a third perceived frequency. That is the difference between the two different beats. And, it's said to provide many of the same benefits of meditation. So if you have problems with meditation and stress and you want to increase focus, have better sleep. I haven't slept a bad night in my life since I started journaling, right? It processes something that your dreams are definitely there to help with if you don't have the ability or capacity to do it in your waking hours. And my theory is if you get a lot of it done in your waking hours, you have more direct access to it. You have more direct access to your thoughts that you didn't know you had. You're teasing out your thoughts from your head. And your sleep now is free to serve other functions. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Ask me anything. Life is worth it. Liwi. I'm going to call you Liwi. It's time check because it's always rolling into the workday. It's 8:59. It's just about the workday, so I'm going to have to start moving pretty soon. So anything you want to get in and wrap up before I truly switch modes, you're going to have to do it soon. Let's see who's there. I just can't believe it seems popular for me. Like when I get to 3 or 4 concurrent users, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I know that's nothing. There's people out there who get thousands of concurrent users, but the long tail. I've always been a long tail guy. Who cares about mega audiences and stuff like that? Do it for yourself first. Oh, that's why it gets small. I shrink it over there to see that. I should start using different browsers so my size, my text sizes don't get bound together between different windows. When I write something, there always a curious suggestion. Oh, from my text editor. Yeah, why? Yeah, so the curious suggestion is ChatGPT or something like it from OpenAI. It's called GitHub Copilot, and is the same and is from both Microsoft and OpenAI. I'll show you. So I did an integration with GitHub Copilot. So all this chat stuff, all this AI stuff that's taking over the world so much, it seems, is also an offering in software programming inside your text editor. And you can see here it's being promoted as pair programming. And the purpose of it is to help you program better, right? But I've implemented it in a way that it's in my personal journal. It's in my personal journal, and it's not just being used for coding. So if I were to go to a page where I'm actually coding, the way it's intended to be used, and almost no one uses it the way I use it, because they use it in VS Code, right? So if you want to see how most people are using it, they're using it in a product called VS Code. This is a text editor that is free and open source, but it's from Microsoft, and it very much guides and leads you into Microsoft's way of doing stuff. It's not bad. It's just entirely and completely Microsoft's way of doing stuff, and it's gonna make you dependent on Microsoft. It's leading towards the future they want, you to be in, so that they play this very parental role. They know what's best for you. And one of the things that they did is released this Copilot product, which is very, very appealing. And I didn't want to be left out. So it turns out that Copilot is available for more than just VS Code. It's available for just a handful of other products. There they are. It's available for VS Code, as I talked about. The precursor to VS Code, these are both Microsoft products. This product, which is a third-party contender to these two products, one of the few things out there that's still holding its own against these two things. It comes more from the old IBM Java world, and hasn't quite died yet. There's a lot of people on it. And not that it should die, it's sort of a proprietary alternative to this, right? So these are proprietary, pretending to be free and open source, but still quite proprietary, and then free and open source, the true free and open source software that belongs in the same echelons, because so many developers out there, not the majority, but so many developers feel the same way. They feel the evil of Microsoft. They feel the evil of IBM, Oracle. There's no evil, none at all. It is just pure altruism, trying to do you a favor, trying to improve your life, to do technical things that turn you into a wizard. With the history of this going back to, MIT in the very early days, Bell Labs in the very early days. I'm sure the UK comes into this with, I forget their universities, but a lot of the UK has contributed to this world as well. And it goes back to the 1950s. In the 1960s. By the 1970s, it was quite well formalized to the point where it became part of Unix. Unix became like a virus spreading out over the world, carrying the precursor to this, VI. If you look at all these letters, the VI in there is the one that in the 1970s became fundamental to the fabric of tech. So did another text editor called Emacs, but that's another discussion. But it continued to evolve. VI became Vim, and then Vim forked off a branch called NeoVim. This NeoVim is supported now by Microsoft, because Microsoft owns GitHub, with their Copilot product. Pair programming It gives you an alternative. So if you were ever curious about anything in programming, so much more stuff. No, I don't need to hurry up. That my employers are quite laxed with allowing me to do this stuff. This is what makes me valuable to them. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah. So here's how this OpenAI stuff was intended. Watch this. I just start doing backticks and the word Python. So it knows I'm going to be doing some Python code. It might even suggest playing with ChatGPT in a comment. So let's see what code it suggests for playing with ChatGPT. No, it's not. We'll do a real one, which will produce some Python code. Example of recursion. There. Fibonacci or factorial series. Now, recursion is just one of the ways that you can achieve this kind of looping behavior. And let's demonstrate an alternative to recursion. Example of iteration. Kind of the, I'm repeating myself. It's the alternative to recursion that doesn't let your code go out of control quite so much. But it doesn't want to tell me. Do I have it spelled wrong? No, I had it spelled right. Give me my iteration example there. On the same factorial, see? The same factorialing problem, but here's factorialing with recursion that it knew I wanted to do because I put that comment there. And then another example. Now I'm doing this in a markdown file. So you're not seeing the color coding. It's not quite as glorious. That's why I was sort of quitting out of this over here so that I could do an ls and then cd into one of the, I'm in an unusual location for doing that. I guess cd ... over to Skype will be the place to be. This is where I was working on some code recently. I'll pull up one of the things I was working on recently. And now it's a .py file, and you get the color coding and everything. And now this is a little bit more the equivalent of VS Code. It's still just my editor, but now it has color coding. And if I didn't have to do those backticks, I can just say recursion. No, I guess example of recursion. And here's the same thing. It's not doing it. Oh, I guess it's a little bit different. Not too bad. That's it. So you get it with color coding and whatever, you know. That was unnecessary. And that's it. I think I'm going to wrap up here. If you have any final questions, get them in. So amazing here. I'm going to be disconnecting when I'm up to 4 people concurrently. Get questions in quick if you want me to stay online. Otherwise, I might go live again during the day because the stuff I need to do, there's no reason until it gets proprietary, until I can't share stuff I've learned. I can do this. I think I can stream during the day. If my employer doesn't want me to, they'll let me know. But this is so much what I have to do for work that I say I'll stick with it for a while. So even though I'm disconnecting now, watch for me to pop up live during the day. Maybe I'll make this a constant, regular thing. I don't see why not. I'm being highly motivated to do it by my AI pair programmer, my AI paired programming. So if you want to Google something, Google the concept of pair programming. And I am innovating. I'm doing pair journaling, right? Yeah. Don't have any more questions. Glad you could join in. Life is worth it. I'm No, I don't have employees. I am an employee. I am not self-employed. I'm one of those people who is blessed to be able to work from home. But what I do have is people all throughout the industry I'm in. I've been in the industry long enough that I know a lot of people. And, you know, I work with them. I get their opinions on things. Quite often my mind goes off into too abstract, excessively abstract land, and my people rein me in, going, "No, no, you're out here, but you have to walk people through these other steps if you want to bring them there. And why bring them there at all when the power tools are so good? Just send them to VS Code and do it the Microsoft way and jump on the big band." I don't know why I'm answering it that way, but I do not have employees. I've tried going the route of doing my own company, but I hate having employees. I mean, I'll just throw in here, I hate the entrepreneurial culture. Yeah, it knows what I'm talking about. It knows what I'm talking about. I'd like to make the money. Let's be straight. I'd like to make the money. I should have saved money since I was 25, but didn't. Now all my assets are internal in my physical body. And I'm thinking that's maybe for the best. It influences who I am. It keeps me interested and engaged. And it gives me stuff to share. Gives me a sense of purpose. And it gives me stuff to share. All right. Later, Gators. Talk to you soon. Great experience. You can say hi to my cat, Lenny. Yeah. Good night, all. Or good day, all. And I'll see you again soon. Ask you. Okay. Scary movies. Did I miss stuff? I missed stuff. Whether I like scary movies. Say bye. Okay. See ya. I'll be back. You can see all this published on my site. There, I'm publishing it. And talk to you soon.